Hello, this is Dr. Scott Kilberg. I often have patients who come into my office who are concerned because they have noticed a lump or bump form in their foot or ankle. Now obviously their biggest concern is, do I have cancer in my foot? Well, the good news is that the vast majority of these masses or lumps and bumps that form in the foot and ankle are certainly not cancerous. But cancer can arise from time to time in the foot and the ankle. It's important to be able to rule that out. Now, one of the most common types of lump and bump that forms is simply a bony prominence that sticks up against the skin. Now, bony prominences often form because of mechanical traction or other types of mechanical damage against bone, which then stimulates the outer layer of the bone to become thickened. Also, spurs can form in this very same way, and so you can often find these on the sides or the tops of the feet. Another type of lump that forms on the bottom of the foot is something called a plantar fibroma. Now, plantar fibromas are very, very common, and they basically represent a benign mass of fibrous tissue that forms inside something called the plantar fascia, which is basically a cord-like ligament that forms on the bottom of the foot. Another type of lump and bump that forms in the foot, which is extremely common, it can be found in many places in the body, is something called a ganglion cyst. A ganglion cyst is basically a fluid-filled body that forms over a joint or over tendon tissue and basically represents an outpocketing of the fluid from the joint and that tendon tissue, and it basically makes a squishy type of fluid-filled sac that can stick out against the skin. Another type of soft sort of lump or bump that forms in the foot, often on the sides or around the heel, is something that forms of fat tissue. Now, there is a class of masses called lipomas, which can form in which there is either enlargement of the fat tissue or an actual tumor of the fat tissue itself. And these are very rarely ever malignant, but most of the time they're benign. But because they can expand to a fairly large size, they can create problems with shoe use and other pressure against the skin. Now, there are some times in which cancer can form in the foot and the ankle. There is a group of cancers called sarcomas, which can form from a number of different tissue in the foot and ankle. This can include bone, muscle, tendon, as well as fat tissue as well. Now, these cancers can be very, very serious and can be very fatal if not identified quickly enough. So there are some instances in which, yes, some of these lumps and bumps can represent something very, very serious. But as I said, the vast majority of the time, these are very benign and can often be easily treated without any longer-term consequence to the body. Now, if you have found that you are growing a lump or bump in your foot or ankle, whether or not this has been growing for a long time or whether this appeared very quickly, it's important to have a foot and ankle specialist assess this. There are certain nuances to the foot and ankle anatomy that sometimes can be misinterpreted as a mass, and so you can go through a very big workup without that necessarily needing to be the case. So it's very important to see somebody who's very attuned to the foot and ankle and the anatomy and what some of these lumps and bumps may truly actually represent. And so they can be worked up properly and diagnosed properly and treated when needed.